Yeah, I didn't even realize that until just now. It's like recently. I was like, why February? Who picked February? It's like the leavings.
At least February is consistent.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of CC&C. My name is Cailean Babcock.
I'm CC Heidel.
So it's February. It's Black History Month. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. You know, it's all about me.
Yeah, we give you the shortest month of the year to celebrate heritage and history. And
hey, I'll tell you this though. When I was in high school, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know this, and probably a lot of black people my age and maybe a little older, they'll remember when I say it. At one point, it was Black History Week in February. I remember because my high school was a Catholic high school in New Orleans, Brother Martin. And every year we had a display for Black History Week. Usually it went off without a hitch. We had a faculty member who was Bill Kelly, BK. And Bill Kelly, Mr. Kelly would help us out, and we'd have meetings and what have you. And we'd have presentations and stuff, and it was nice. One year, somebody spit on a display case window. I mean, not in front of anybody, of course. Coward!
Well, you're always going to have some...
yeah, there's always a coward.
Just jerk. It's just...
Yeah.
Probably it doesn't even really... I mean, racism is a thing, but the kind of people who do that aren't necessarily even the racists. It's just somebody being a smartass. How old was this? This was high school?
Yeah.
Okay, they made it straight up racist.
yeah, right.
But, it's just... Sometimes there's just people who just want to be the... How dare these people...
right.
Have the spotlight. They're more of jealousy of spotlight and not just racism.
Right.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to apologize in any way. I don't know.
Sure.
I wasn't there.
Right.
But anyway, it sucks. I think it's kind of weird in the first place. It's a sign of this kind of white guilt that they had to create a Black History Month.
You're right.
I mean, being aware of Black history is important, but again, it's just this, we've got to try to absolve ourselves of this guilt somehow, so we're going to make a big deal out of it. And again, most things worth giving tribute to, they give it a day or a week.
Right.
And apparently that didn't absolve white Americans of their guilt, so it extended it out to a month. And again, we also have this weird thing. It's like we rank our minorities, which is even weirder because it's like we feel most guilty about Black people. Next is Hispanics, and Asians. They're harmless,
right? And the Native Americans are kind of like I don't know what to do about that. Yeah,
and they're not even on the radar,
right? Which is kind of I'm like okay, and down especially in the South, there's a lot of I have Native American blood, so. Well, I can't go over there and you can't go over there either. So we can hang out here together for a little while. But, the most recent person to say this, because I wouldn't think that he'd be the only person to say it. But the most recent person that I can remember saying this is Morgan Freeman saying that, we shouldn't need a Black History Month.
You shouldn't need it, yeah.
But, especially given what we see recently, right.
Well, the irony being is that the good side, the silver lining to the dark cloud we're living under right now is that it woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
And again, Americans love their narrative. We love to make this a fight between good and evil. I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy, and everybody thinks they're the good guy, which is kind of a problem, which actually should help you be more empathetic, I think, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as to say, hey, we should all just treat everybody equally, which it should be that simple. Again, you should Black History Month. You shouldn't need to say, hey, if all civil rights were applied equally, we would have no problems. By the way, I personally don't use the phrase human rights.
Right.
Because I use the word civil rights. And the reason why I'm not trying to nitpick, but I thought about this and it kind of struck me funny. Human rights are any rights that you maintain when you're locked in a cage with a tiger. Any rights that he will respect are your inherent human rights. Now, your civil rights are the right you have to call up the cops or somebody to come get this goddamn tiger before he eats you. Yeah. Those are your civil rights, civilization, the rights that we agree that we should give to each other to maintain a certain level of civility. Civil rights. Right. Okay, there's no such thing as human rights just because it's, eat or be eaten. That's literally what it is. Anyway, but I digress. But the problem about when you get to the radical left, for example, where everybody has to have their own special little thing recognized, right? Is it actually becomes divisive. And again, it always ends up being, there's a certain tunnel vision involved too, which is a problem. So, okay, we're going to respect black people, but Native Americans, And I was in one of those fun social media conversations about the Dakota Access Pipeline and Indian reservations. That should not be a Native American issue. Not because I don't respect Native Americans, but because it should be a straightforward issue of property rights and due process. Right. Period. They didn't do their due diligence. A company paid a lot of money to ram through the permit, and they're trying to exercise what amounts to eminent domain on a bunch of people in exchange for money, which is crap. Yeah. Okay? So but by making it Native Americans versus the government issue, they turn it into this hot button topic that's instantly divisive. And this one guy saying, like, stupid Indians on their reservations, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, which tribe? My problem with that is, like, first of all, yes, their land. Second of all, which tribe? This is the other problem, is that when we try to create this oppressed minority, you can't be divisive enough. We're all individuals, yay! Which ironically is now considered like a conservative thing. That you're supposed to respect the individual instead of, like, I don't know, the corporation, because those are individuals too. Oh, you're right, a corporation is an individual. Last time I checked, a corporation was one person. Yeah, absolutely. Now, my feeling is that if a corporation
and people are molecules.
If you can, that's it. If a corporation is a person, then we should be allowed to throw them in jail. We should be allowed to exercise a capital punishment in states where that's recognized. Right. They should pay taxes. Oh, wait a minute. Well, no. They cannot be more equal than people. Yeah, in other words, they take all the advantages and throw away the disadvantages. It's a nonsense conversation. But again, I'm all over the map here. But
I think that well, first of all, the reservations is where they were put. Yeah. Here, this land is yours. It's crappy. Doesn't grow a lot, but we're going to give it to you. And that's going to be a really shitty thing.
Yeah, we took the land. We found oil under it, or we found gold under it. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Army Corps of Engineers history, they're the ones who are usually used as the muscle, as the strongman to go in there and kick them out. Yeah. At any given point when they discover fun things like coal or oil or whatever, natural resources, gold. I think Black Hills, I want to say, which actually is in that same area, was the last time there was a big kerfuffle. And again, people are like going, yeah, that was then, this is now, and all
that is connected, people. It's all connected. If you don't think it's connected, then you're actually pretty short-sighted. And I mean, maybe that's strong, and maybe your little feelings aren't hurt. But when you say, well, because I wasn't alive, and so I'm not connected, not so true. Many people benefit and or are hurt by things that happened before they existed, and even generations before they existed. And to say that that's not true is an open falsehood. It's not true. There's not just people saying it's not true. There's people saying, like, well, the treaty didn't apply to this. Right? Well, that's just a lie. I mean, well, and again, it's a lie. It's not your land. Bang. Right. It's and trying to, I think I may have also kind of misspoke myself. It's not just like the treaty, but saying that incident, that treaty addressed a specific incident which is not reoccurring. Right. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue about history, but again, let's keep this simple. It came down to
private citizens on their private land and eminent domain.
Right.
And if you do want to escalate it, you can also say that technically reservations are autonomous.
Right.
And so we actually even have to treat them like a sovereign nation,
right.
which they are. So again, it shouldn't be that easy. And now we're on the DAPL tangent here, but the point is that when we make things about minorities, we run the risk of getting mired in the weeds and making it a totally different issue. It's a social issue rather than a straightforward, like, legal issue.
Well, I think what happens is that it ends up getting to that point because, quite frankly, when the straight up legal issues are brought to light, they're ignored by those in power. And they're like, well, now what? What do you want me to say? Like, okay, this is the law, and you've chosen to ignore it by simply insisting that you're right. I say, well, no, see, it says right here that this is our land and you can't use it, and you need our permission. And they go, well, that's not what we think it says. And I mean, but that's like saying, me looking at you and saying, well, I don't think you have a Van Dyke, the mustache and the goatee.
No, I don't. I have the Star Trek Evil Twin.
Oh, right. And you go, well, no, it's right here. And I go, well, I don't think you have it.
Right.
And then if I really want to get technical, I'd be like,
you're gaslighting me.
That's not connected right there. It's like if you had a few more hairs. But, I mean, that's what happens.
Beard discrimination.
I know.
You're so racist.
Well, if I was a Van Dyke man for a long time.
I am facially hair impeded.
Yeah.
I have a facial hair impediment.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you got to go to the Americans with Disabilities Act.
There you go.
Right.
So the thing is,
we go all of this, and I'm just like, just stop being so fucking greedy.
It's.
I mean, that's really what it is.
One of the good things is that you're seeing it now in the town hall meetings they're doing, where that a lot of people who are mobilizing. The Republicans are saying this is outright like all these demonstrations are manufactured, they're paid for by George Soros, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, citizens are coming out and exercising their free speech, and they're getting active in government, and the representatives, these politicians, are like, oh crap. And the thing is don't make it tribal. This is the frustrating thing right now, is it's so tribal. So well, when the Democrats were in the power, they did the same thing. Blah, blah, blah. Or when it comes to Social Security, we heard the Democrats took all our money, or vice versa, the Republicans. Don't make it that tribal. I mean,
well,
what pisses me off is it's so
keep doing what they're doing.
Huh?
People want to keep doing what they're doing. And quite frankly, what we were talking about before we went on the air, about people being greedy and lazy. So you're like, well, I want to continue to receive this unearned income based on the labor of others at the very least, or at least, based on the earnings of others. Okay, well, they earn that money. I'll just take some of it. I feel like I'm entitled to it.
Well, it actually, when it comes to governments right now, I think maybe we mentioned this last time about South Dakota's government is totally corrupt at this point.
Oh, well, yeah, they're all.
What happened was they had a citizens referendum trying to get rid of dark money. And dark money means that you don't have to reveal who is donating to you or your campaign.
Right. Because that's the opposite of transparent.
Who is paying? Wait, you just voted to totally deregulate the entire oil industry of my state, which I don't support. Well, who does support that? Oh, people. Them.
Right.
Things. So anyway, the point is that it was a ridiculous approval rating. I think it was I want to say 86%. You can check my numbers, but it was a obvious majority, super majority even, of citizens saying, all we want to do is make sure that you reveal who's donating. That's all they had to do. Reveal who, basically getting one step towards getting money out of politics. Yeah. Right? Didn't say you couldn't take the donations. Yeah. Only that you had to say, well, I got it from this guy. And they called an emergency session of the legislature to strike down the referendum. The people had spoken, and the politicians were like, whoa. I mean, the politicians had to put that on the ballot. Yeah. They had to write the ballot and say, yep, we got to put this on here. And then they were like, whoa, well, we didn't think you were actually going to take the money from us. So But this is an example. There are states now in the United States that are officially ranked as failed democracies. South Dakota being one of them. The other one is North Carolina, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
My own adopted home state of
foolishness.
My own adopted home state of Oklahoma is trying to get on that list.
Yeah, you all are. Well, I was a track coach, so there's usually in a distance race, you'll have the pack. So you'll have
a long distance
the first pack. Oh, so yeah, so you have the first pack, and then generally you have those guys. The second pack just kind of nipping at their heels, and sometimes people run with the second pack depending on the length of the race, just so they can they don't want the first pack to get too far out ahead, but maybe they want to use a little surprise or they want to kind of sort of be stealthy. And yeah, I think Oklahoma's definitely in the beginning of that.
Hey, okay, now
right. Well, I'm from Louisiana.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
I'm from Louisiana.
I thought he was talking about specifically Oklahoma track teams.
Oh no,
that's okay.
We're talking about that politically.
But yeah.
I'm from Louisiana, and quite frankly, the only reason Louisiana is reasonably purple is because of New Orleans.
Fair enough. I would love to get into that with you sometime, talking about the really unique combination of laws that exist between the municipality of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana. Because you still have the French law, right? Napoleonic law, which is crazy. It's so cool, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, that'll be another thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
That'll be fun. In fact, I need to call my cousins and stuff because they're lawyers there. So yeah.
I have a step aunt who is a lawyer.
Oh wow!
This is weird.
Yeah, right.
And also a certified New Orleans tour guide.
Wow!
As their hobby. So I got a really good tour when I went there. This is back in 1996.
Well, I'm going back next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can get you there.
I know. I'm sure we know some of the same people. So.
Everybody
knows everybody, or they know somebody who knows you. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I wanted to say is, this whole thing with protests, and we haven't really dealt with it a lot, but. I want to say this because, I saw this work in with smaller sample ones. Okay, there are 2 schools that I've worked at out of the 4 that I've worked at full time. Mm-hmm. And, and one didn't lead straight to the other. So just in case anybody has any conspiracy theories, no, it didn't happen like that. So what happened, I was working at one school and it was in Los Angeles. And so the students were upset because the school board, and it's a very large school district, very, very large. And LA Unified, right? So second largest in the country. So, and the kids are like, well, what do we do? These are our classrooms and we feel like we should, if not make decisions, at least. And I said, well, you talk to your social studies teacher, you all have taken history, and you all have read about all these things. And they're like, well, what if we want to protest? And I said, what you have to realize when you protest is that you'll probably be breaking some rules. And if you're going to break those rules, however peacefully, then you have to deal with the consequences.
Sure.
And the consequences shouldn't be violent,
Yeah,
if you're outside,
I gotta say, I'm all pro protest, but man, keep whatever you guys do not or fall into the temptation of acting out violently. Well, yell as much as you want. Right. Don't break any windows.
Well, I told them too. I said you shouldn't be.
Don't let it get co-opted. That's even worse. A lot of it's been co-opting too.
Right. Well, what happened is I said, I'm not in a position to tell you all. I said you have a lot of, you can write letters, you can do all this stuff. I said, or you can, you can do this. However, remember, if you miss class and there are penalties for you cutting classes or not being in a class, I said, and the school chooses to enforce those penalties, you'll have to live with that. So that'll be on your record that you were either, I said, chances are you won't get suspended. I guess, I don't know. I said, but, you have to deal with that.
Kind of like a lesson in
civics,
basically.
Exactly. I said, there are people in the South, who my parents knew, who went to jail and they broke laws and they were peaceful. And they weren't necessarily peacefully taken to jail. Now, this is a school thing, so I can't imagine that cops will show up with dogs and say, come on.
Right.
I said, but, this is something that you all have to discuss. And I said, you can just talk about what you want to do, right?
Right.
I said, and I'm going to tell you now, I said, anybody here in the administration or, on the staff, the faculty, I said, don't put them in the position of asking them to help you. I said, we have our thing going. I said, but I can tell you how I feel about it. I said, but if this is a student thing and someone even perceives that there are teachers running it.
Oh, geez.
Then,
rallying students.
Right. I said, right. Yeah. And that's right. And so they understood, and they planned to walk out.
Wow!
And this was a junior high, so there was mostly the ninth graders.
That's crazy.
That did that. So what they did
what was the issue that they were protesting?
Well, they were getting ready to cut teachers, and they were cutting teachers' salaries.
And the kids were.
Well, right at this school, they asked and they said, well, can we do this? And a lot of it may have had to do with the fact that it was in February, I think, so it's Black History Month. So
of course,
I think the protests came up, and I'm teaching English literature, so I'm doing some of the poetry and the literature from the time, and it mentions lynchings and marches and stuff like that. So sure. Right, and so I said, okay, fine. So, the administration got wind of it, of the fact that this thing might happen. They would say, well, I was like, no, don't discuss it with any faculty member, because then you put them, I said, then someone will say that they put you up to it and that they're doing it they're putting you on the line for their self-interest.
So this is the administration, and people should be aware that teachers tend to be fairly liberal.
Yeah. Right.
Matter of fact, getting into work together is a lot like herding cats. It's a good thing. And I'm not saying a good thing because we're programming kids to be a bunch of little liberals, but because they tend to be fair and open-minded, and they'll respect the fact that them educating your kids is all about giving your kids the best education and not like promoting or imposing a certain set of beliefs on them, right? Because that's the last thing you want. So, but administration, by contradiction, I don't know why, is paradoxically very conservative.
Right.
And matter of fact, I think I've mentioned
somebody has to rein in those liberals.
And I think I mentioned this in the show before, that in Osaka, in my experience as a teacher here, they had, if you wanted to be promoted to principal, which is a very strange subset. They're technically administration.
Right.
They used to be teachers, and they're controlled more directly by the Board of Education, and they get reassigned to schools like on a 3-year rotation versus teachers, which can be 5, 7, or 10-year rotations.
Right.
Okay. And they also can rotate into the Board of Education directly to handle different departments. So very kind of interesting way of meshing with the schools and keeping the Board of Education and the schools more closely in sync, I guess. And I guess kind of like in America, we'd have like the superintendent of schools might be that same role. Yeah, right. So they kind of combine that. But so you have the vice principal, who's really the head of teachers, and it's like almost like a duopoly, right? And then you've got or dual leadership, and then you've got the principal who represents the school as the face of the school, but also the Board of Education. Right. So a teacher who wants to become a principal needs to be one willing to toe the line and be a yes man. So there was one vice principal at one of the schools here who was passed over for a promotion, and he confided in a friend of mine who's a teacher, saying he just was wondering if he was doing the right thing. And the guy's like, but you stand up for us, and I know that might be hard on you, but that is necessary, and it sucks that the system is against you, but for as long as you're willing to do that, it's a good thing. Yeah. So, but again, the point being is that administrations tend to be conservative. And by the way, when you talk about the modern problem of universities in America, which are now kind of like the easy target for saying, this is the snowflake problem.
Right.
All these people with their trigger words and safe spaces, it's the universities. And they're not wrong. There's a lot of like radical liberalism going on in universities, in certain universities,
right,
where it's gone too far the other way. Because the reason why I say too far is because universities are places of education and learning, and it's called a university because it's universal. And you're supposed to be exposed to different opinions so that you can discuss. And when you have protests to force somebody to not speak at your university, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you're actually empowering the people that you think you're striking down. Milo, I can't remember his last name.
Oh, right. Milo Y guy.
Who recently managed to screw himself over because he got caught on video saying that men having sex with boys is okay, and apparently that was a bridge too far. Anyway, but he fed off of all of these poorly informed liberal kids thinking that the best thing they could do is shout him down. And if they had either one, not said anything at all, and allowed the 7 people who actually wanted to hear him talk go listen to his crap, or 2 had gone themselves and just laughed at him, it would have been way better. Now, conservatives who say, see, I'm right, this is the problem. These stupid liberal kids at universities are what's running everything. There are liberal speakers you never hear about who don't get to go to universities to speak because the administration strikes it down before it ever becomes a protest issue. There's is it Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, which is a news program on YouTube I like to watch. I highly recommend it. They're very they're progressive, but they're very balanced. They won't they don't hold punches for anybody. She was invited to speak at a university by, I guess, basically a kind of like a booking agent, who takes care of stuff like that. And she got a phone call. She was trying to plan her calendar for the year, called them up and said, hey, what's going on with that? And they said, somebody at the university and the administration said they don't like your politics, so they don't want to invite you. So this is the thing. Liberals right now, especially, I have conservative friends who are just shaking their heads saying, see, they just don't know how to fall in line and support the president the way they're supposed to and just accept the vote. Like the Tea Party did. Yeah, those are famous people who obviously did that. But the point being is that conservatives, by definition, represent the establishment. And the establishment is able to kind of top-down determine how things are done, whereas liberals tend to be bottom-up. Now, I'm not trying to say this is like some kind of a liberals are better because, or conservatives are bad because. I'm saying this is the structure.
Right.
It's just conservatives, by definition, you want to conserve the status quo. That is how it works. Conserve traditional values. Conserve X, Y, and Z.
Well, let me boomerang back around to what I was saying before with this protest. So the principal goes on to the PA maybe a day or 2 before these students protest. I would imagine maybe it was the day before. And he went on the PA. Told him he had heard rumblings of this stuff and proceeded to be very conservative. It's illegal. It's not right, blah, blah, blah. They weren't specific about any sort of causes or anything like that. But he said, and we'll take steps to make sure that it doesn't happen. So in my mind, now I'm a new teacher. So, this is my first full-time job. Really. And, we got to take a little break here.
Okay, sure.
All right. Hey, this guy. All right. Thank you.
Bye. See you.
See you.
You okay?
Yep. I knew that was coming soon.
That's cool.
I just got a big res for Monday, and I had to hurry up and order those shrimp so I can defrost them and peel them. So much fun. So much fun.
I hear you. Peeling shrimp. I know it's. I've been.
You're like, yeah. All right.
Shall we wrap this up and move on?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and finish this up.
Okay. Go.
Okay. So what happened was, so the next day, the conservatives, who were all for law and order, broke the law by locking the gates.
Oh, denying them access to a public school?
So what they wanted, no, they didn't lock them, they locked them in.
Oh my God, they're holding them against their will? Isn't that kidnapping?
Well,
kind of, like, whatever. I mean, like some kind
teachers
of
are in administration. Well, the school
someone.
is considered in loco parentis, which means in place of the parent. However,
right.
At the very least, you're violating a lot of fire laws, right?
Yeah. Oh, fire laws. Yeah, because you're endangering.
So there's padlocks. There's two entrances in the front on opposite sides of the school, and then there's a place to drive in the back. All of these things are padlocked. With chains.
Ah.
And I'm thinking, man, if they really planned it, and so. Not only had they planned it just to go out in the front. This is all, I found out after.
Right.
They planned just to go in the front. They called a TV station, which, all of these things are responsible things in terms of, well, we're going to do this protest.
Wait, who called the TV station? The kids?
The kids. So the kids called the TV station. And so the TV station's there, and it's a junior high. So, I'm not saying that kids can't control themselves, but what I am saying is that now they're locked in and they're frustrated.
Oh,
so they started climbing over the fences. And the administrator's like, what is going on? And I was
They're well informed, but self-control is not exactly
right.
in their
all they want to
wheelhouse.
do is really walk out. And yeah, there's always some knuckleheads. There's always some knuckleheads in adult protests, right?
Sure.
Hell, you could get 70-year-old people to protest, and there's going to be somebody there who wants to hit somebody with something. So anyway, now it's out of control because, some of the kids who are going to do, apparently, this is, like I said, a lot of the kids told me what happened later. A lot of these kids were on board with, even if they just wanted to skip school, literally, now they're agitated because now they have staff, some of the paraprofessionals trying to chase them down. Now they've gone over the gate.
So they literally
these adults don't want to be right. They've created this panic and pandemonium.
Yeah.
And I'm
fleeing in all directions.
Because come on, everybody knows kids can climb fences.
13-year-old kids?
Right, yeah.
They're so athletic and spry.
Right, and now they're running around the neighborhood because they're trying to get away because now they're scared.
And also, once you've locked them in, you're also are tacitly saying the rules are off.
Yeah,
if somebody came to pick up, saying, "How dare you run away?" It's like you locked me in.
You locked me in, right?
Tit for tat. This is Lord of the Flies right here.
Yeah, right. Thank God it's not a fire.
So what was the upshot?
So what happened was then it made the news.
Good job, guys.
It made the news, and the cameras were there, and the administration was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Y'all had all this information that these kids were going to do this." And you didn't attempt to work with them. You just told them not to do it, and you essentially threatened them. I said, then you locked them in. I said,
go ahead.
Shit. I was kind of hoping he would do like normal people and just leave it there.
So you locked them in.
So they locked him in, and eventually, obviously, after most of them had gone out, then they did a little thing. They interviewed a couple of the kids, and they said, well, they're going to get rid of our teachers, and we've gotten to know our teachers, and we have relationships with our teachers, and we find most of our teachers to be, but nobody's asking us because we don't pay taxes. They went through the whole thing, And but I mean, again, some kids got out in the neighborhood and they didn't break anybody's windows or anything, but in fact, they were trying to get away, so they skirted a few backyards and.
They probably thought they were empowered. They probably thought they were having fun. I can imagine being 13 and how exciting that would be.
Right, and we've all seen those movies, Bad News Bears, where adults look bad, and they're chasing kids. So that happened. And so a few years later, I'm going to make this quick. A few years later, at a very small school district where I worked, the same thing happened. Now, we're talking about very, very small, like maybe 2,000 students in the whole district, K through 12. And so the high school students, again, the cuts that were rumored, and the administration said, well, we can't talk about it, which of course is not true. So everybody's agitated because, and again, I don't know why these things happen in February and March. I guess, the new school year's coming up. Yeah, they got to figure out what to do. So now we're talking about older kids here. So they kind of sort of went through the whole thing. I didn't mention my previous experience because I didn't want that to color what they wanted to do. They asked. I mean, I said the same things. I was like, wow, this is interesting. Yeah, I was like, wow. So what I did say, without mentioning the previous incident, was there's also, given the ages of some people and their relative maturity, or lack of, so what happened was that same kind of thing happened. Who was the principal at the time? Yeah, I know who it was. I don't want to mention her name because you don't get no press because, well, So anyway, she went on to the PA, said she had heard these rumors, and that these things were going to happen. Kids did call the TV station. There was no internet, so they couldn't research it like that. But they called the TV station. This time, however, there were way too many entrances and exits for them to block off, and so they were smarter in terms of the main administrative building where the superintendent and the assistant superintendents and those people is literally up a very small hill, and it's a 5-minute walk away from the high school, literally. So it's called the Mansion, and they their plan was to do this. So I was actually quite proud of them. So what the seniors and juniors did was they had met, and what happened was the bell rang for the time that they decided to go. It was whatever period it was, maybe the middle of the day, fourth period. So the bell rings, and then the kids go to their classes. And they get into their classes, and then the tardy bell rings. And those kids who decided to participate get up and quietly walk out. They were seniors, and some juniors posted at all of the exits, telling everybody, okay, we're going to go this way, we're going to do this. Even the young kids, right.
Really well done.
I mean, they were like, well, no, we're not trying to make this about...
It's a walk out. It's not starting a riot.
Right. Yeah. And even some of the middle school kids wanted to do it. And they were like, okay, we're here. You come this way. And it was almost like, big brothers and big sisters helping out. And they calmly went over to the mansion and they massed in an area. They had already planned out where they were going to mass.
Man, you should have them run the fire drills.
Right. Right.
Look like naturals.
And they... and then the cameras were there, and then, the administrators, the chief administrators for the district came out. One of them looked at me and said, hey, Cece, can you talk to me and get them to go back to class right now before they say anything? I said, are you serious? I said, what do you want me to tell them? And he says, well, just tell them that this isn't going to happen, this isn't going to work. I said,
democracy doesn't work. You need to give up now.
Yeah, right.
Fall in line.
Well, not only that, I'm like, well, I said, the principal went on to the PA and told them what the deal was, that they could be suspended.
There are repercussions for your actions.
Right. And, or detention, suspensions, things like that. I said, they know all of that. I mean, yes, they like me. I just got here, though.
Right.
You know? And I said, what message do you want me to send to them? Do you want me to tell them that this isn't right? That
exercising your free speech is
right. I mean,
something to be frowned upon.
They don't vote yet, but they still have rights.
I got to say, that is one of the tricky things about being minors, though. And as you said, what is the Latin, the nice Latin for?
En loco parentis.
En loco parentis. So the point being that there's a weird gray area for minors who are obviously self-aware, well-informed,
right.
and yet do not have their majority. So, I mean, if a public school were to say, like, I don't know, I'm saying the government, a public school, the government, was to treat an adult, punish them for exercising their free speech, that would be in direct violation of the First Amendment.
Right.
So, like, you're allowed to protest. If you're walking out of your private company,
right,
in order to protest, and your boss decides to fire you, that's his prerogative. He's not the government. Free speech does not mean that you won't get fired.
Right.
But it does. But in a public school situation, that's got to be tricky because that's the government.
Right. So, what ended up happening was I said, well, I mean, I understand that there are risks here for the kids and for everybody because if somebody gets hurt, blah blah blah. I said, but right now, look what's going on. And he says, well, I said, they have people who wanted to speak. The cameras are rolling. I said, and they're taking turns speaking, right? I said, I think that perhaps you should get ready for just in the event that there's a breakdown. I said, but are you looking over there? And he says, well, yeah. I said, you don't see those young kids who are just watching the older kids do this, without violence and without. I said, they're essentially babysitting the younger kids,
right?
And he's pay attention. It's just what he's talking about. He's talking about this, and because there was an influx of new teachers that they hired, and then all of a sudden they decided, right, like maybe 10 of us at the high school, right? And then nobody knew who was targeted and for what, right? But I mean, they handled it beautifully, and then they literally then it was over, and they walked all these kids back, and I'm thinking to myself, other than if you drop your ego, Mr. Administrators and Miss Administrator,
and stop being afraid.
Yeah, this worked very well. Had a chance to. I mean, maybe you feel like you don't have a choices to cut these teachers, but these kids made their, and they felt like there was no other way you were going to they were going to be heard.
Politicians do pay attention, and also having the media there is good because how they choose to present it, which they might not do a good job.
You're right.
Is helpful because the people who are seeking election or re-election will listen to this, and that's the whole point. They represent us, right? So I think that's amazing. It's like the best lesson.
I said, go talk to the social studies teachers and ask how that went.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you don't have to.
They'd be patting themselves on the back, like I did a great job. Nonviolent protest. That sounds like a makings of a TV movie right there.
I said, and I said, if it's got to happen, and the numbers say it's got to happen, well, then you present those numbers. But
he should have taken the opportunity. Yeah. Having them all assembled, to stand in front of them and say, hey guys, here's the deal. Right. Instead of, hey CC, can you just kind of like...
No, I said, well, right. I really wanted to go, are you out of your cotton picking line? Yeah. But, I mean, I just didn't, that's not going to get people to, right. At some point you got to think about what you want for the outcome.
And again, I mean, ironically, and it's sad, it speaks to his lack of imagination. It seems that him addressing them directly and appealing to them by saying, my hands are tied.
Could have done
that. I think their frustration, it sounds like, came from the feeling that they were getting this information from here.
Right.
and thinking that it was coming from the administration. If the administration had said to them directly, look, guys, we're not in the loop on this.
Right.
That would have been the most productive thing. And also in front of the media, whatever. Right. Well, I don't know, maybe they don't want to say that in front of the media because they feel on the spot.
It's the government, though. But I mean, there's a certain transparency that has to occur with government.
And if you do say it's not my fault, what's wrong with that, right?
Unless it is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that...
Or you'd be like any other politician and lie
like a rug, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, again, going back to what we said again earlier, the whole... We won't necessarily call it greedy, but we'll call it lazy. I mean, there are times when I've wanted to take shortcuts when I taught. Everybody wants to. You're like, I don't want to talk about this today, but this is necessary. Do it.
Everybody loves inertia when it works in their favor.
You're right, yeah.
Without fail. It doesn't matter where you find yourself in your philosophy or values.
Right.
When the status quo is in your favor, it is the most wonderful thing in the world.
And, quite frankly, but I said, there are days I'm just like, well, this is the way this has to go down. And this is what's best for my students.
And thank God you're in America where that can happen.
Right. I remember there was one quick inquiry into my lesson planning, and I had already been teaching for 15 years. And they were like, these are just a bunch of questions. And I was like, yeah, these are the salient questions that for this class, for this unit. It looks like a quiz. So, well, I have the option of using it as a quiz. But it's more a guide. And, if I give them the quiz, then we go over the quiz.
What's the point of the quiz?
Sometimes I'll be like, you need a quiz. What I want them to do is get their thoughts out onto the paper.
Right.
And then they go, what do you mean? I said, well, I got to get their thoughts out onto the paper so when we have a discussion, they can answer, they'll know the answer to the question, and we can have a discussion. Sure. Because that's what we do when we study literature, right? And
I misunderstood. I was thinking of the teacher that would prep you for the test by giving you the test as the prep questions. I had that teacher. It was.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him. Yeah. It's kind of sad.
It was sad.
Yeah.
It was science too, which I really enjoy. It was like a biology class.
Yeah,
and I love science.
Yeah, I know. I do too. But yeah.
But
I just saw that, and then wrapping it up, I just said, well, this is stop seeing this as a bad thing. Stop seeing this as nobody was trying to win in terms of this isn't a war you just fought.
Right.
This was simply somebody saying,
we don't like what you chose to do. We didn't like
these are our feelings.
Yeah, these are oh my goodness.
You can't have this is how we feel about it.
This is the origin story of Snowball.
But this is how we feel about our teachers. Not every teacher was beloved, and not every teacher is beloved in every school, and certainly not here or any school I've worked in.
If a teacher lived on love, they'd be screwed.
Yeah, right? But at the same time, I'm looking at these adults saying, you're charging us, and these parents are charging us with having these kids understand and prepare them for the adult world. And here we are in an American school, in an American society. And I said, you don't want them prepared to just stick up for themselves.
And also show them like all those little kids watching who weren't saying anything, looking at these older students, which in Japan they call their senpai, their seniors, their role models, showing them how to do it the right way. Not just the probably 10% who organized the event, but the 90% who are the audience had an excellent lesson on how to do it the right way.
Right.
I mean, wow.
This is how this is supposed to go.
I mean, again, the whole school of faculty and administration should have been patting themselves on the back, saying, "This was the best thing ever."
Happens, right?
Yeah, we have.
Unfortunately, now they said, but now we're talking about getting rid of teachers we just hired who are teaching this kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness! History.
Right.
It's called the American Revolution, and it involved people not liking their government and deciding that they should change it. So I want to say though, it's always take things with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter again what your politics or values are.
You want to take a break for a second? There?
Sure.
Somebody's looking in the window.
Okay.
I don't know. Hello.
I don't know why. They're just browsing. They're kids.
Yeah, I figured, but they might come back later. Okay.
Now, so I was saying, just because somebody says that they are on your side, I am also a Republican, I am also a Democrat, I am also liberal, conservative, whatever, fill in the blank. Don't take it as a given that means that they should have carte blanche to always be right, and that the other side is always wrong. We've got to get this whole football sports mentality out of how we deal with things.
Yeah.
Politics should be, well, I'm going to say boring. It shouldn't be this passionate, vitriolic, from the gut kind of thing we have now.
Agreed.
If we can't have a reasonable conversation, it's like, this is a new phrase I learned, which is, I think it was Paul Ryan was being interviewed, and he said, my goal is to never see another Democrat in the White House. And I think he was I can't remember his first name. I want to say Jeff Tapper. He's this CNN, very, very popular CNN interviewer. And he says, so what you're saying is party before country.
Right.
And that's where we've gotten. And it's like, seriously, people, not to be hyperbolic, but if you want to live in a country that is a one party and you got to be loyal to the party,
there are places you can go.
There are places you can go.
Right.
And America used to hate those places and used to say that, by golly, we are the bastion of light against places that think that everybody should agree to support just the party and be loyal to the party.
It's not sports, people.
Yeah, come on.
Sports are a diversion, and we've allowed politics to become a sport.
And politicians will tell you whatever they think you want to hear to get elected. It's this nasty feedback loop. It's kind of their job, but they're supposed to represent you.
Right.
And obviously you pick the person who seems to represent you the most. Great. But there becomes this nasty feedback effect where they start to tailor the platform to the least common denominator. And sometimes they will fearmonger, and sometimes they will just throw out, like I said, social stuff that really isn't part of the issue to try to tug at your heartstrings.
Right.
Just because they say, especially if they say their party, your party, you need to hold them to account.
And don't let anybody call your patriotism into account because you disagree with something.
That makes you the most patriotic American possible. I disagree with you.
Yeah.
I have the right to say that, and I will let you disagree with me, and that's cool.
And then people aren't into fixing things anymore, like for the good of the whole. And I think that's
what I call utilitarian, because there's, like I said, there's kind of like some connotative baggage associated with for the greater good.
Yeah.
Which is, I can see where that's coming from, but there should be utilitarian government. For example, infrastructure is an easy one.
Right.
We should fix the roads because we need the roads. We should fund education because
it makes our country better.
It makes our country better. It's good for the economy. If we still subscribe to the value of a meritocracy, then people should have an equal chance.
Right.
And also, if you're conservative, if you want to trade, for example, a rational inheritance tax, if you want to trade that for saying, I want to make sure that people can be born with $10 billion in the bank, then you need to ensure that the meritocracy is maintained through public education, for example. Because that $10 billion person they are born not having to work a day in their life, ever. Right. And their children and their grandchildren, because if they simply let that money work for them, investment, that's it. They are made not just for life, for generations. And I personally don't think it's fair. I personally think that kind of system is a burden on society. That's my opinion. But again, there should be this baseline that we as Americans agree should be maintained because we think it's good it reflects well on us. It's good for our society. It makes us happy. It actually is good for the economy. It's a win-win. And again, when we were talking about the boomerang about people are lazy, stupid, and selfish. Those are three values you can count on. I know it's horribly cynical, but the greedy part here is greedy and selfish. We don't like sharing. It's a kind of a rationalization of a biological imperative, which is I need to have what I need to live.
Yeah.
Why should I give it to these strange people I don't know? Humans are inherently tribal, but when we have a huge society like the United States, it's 320 million people. You're going to have a whole lot of people that are not part of your tribe. That you're going to screw those guys. So It sucks, but again, it's the difference between eating your vegetables and enjoying your dessert. I'm in favor of capitalism, but I call that enjoying your dessert. Eating your vegetables is the basic kind of like playing by the rules that you got to do to keep things on an even keel.
And if you don't want to parent and teach your kids values, and you figure, well, I'll just make a bunch of money and give it to my kid, you're part of the problem. And if you think that, if you're all worried, everybody's worried about their legacy.
Yeah. Screw your legacy. You're dead.
Well, right.
Sorry. It's a little bit over the top. But, you personally, get over it. If you're an atheist, you're dead. If you're a person who believes in the afterlife, if you're going to a good place, it's probably supposed based on the value that you're not so egotistical.
We're consumed with death and consumed with living forever. So a legacy means you live forever. And quite frankly, I want to be like, no.
Most of the people that live forever in the history books were some serious sons of bitches.
Yeah,
a lot of people died for them to get that chapter.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to need more than a footnote, you got to do some serious crime.
Right.
Minus the time, as it were.
Exactly. And, one of the lines I used to give to, maybe a line is kind of gives it a negative, connotation. I said, but one of the things I used to tell students over the years was, I said, I think that, if they ask for advice or whatever, or, if I had something to offer, I'd say, okay, well, this is what I think, and this is how this is going down, and this is how this is working for you. Now, and this is how it probably should work for you. I do not care if you remember in 5 or 10 years if I told you that. Just please don't forget it. I don't need you to go, oh, well, Cece told me that. That's not my aim. My aim is not to, I gave you this valuable nugget of information, and now when you get famous and write a book, I'm going to be in the book, and I'm going to live forever. No.
You just feel good about the fact that you managed to...
I just figure, you know what? When I die...
in a good way.
I'll feel that maybe I was helpful, and I don't need somebody to remember that and immortalize that, and let's just have it just become part of the whole thing. I love my individuality. Mm-hmm. I think it makes me me, and there are going to be enough people, I think, who remember me at least for 1 or 2 generations, and then after that, I don't see what the point would be.
You can't gamble on that, and like I said, you gotta. It's a crapshoot too. We do.
We have an unhealthy obsession.
Well,
with fame.
and I think that's also very much an American kind of idiosyncrasy. Everybody, the propaganda from America, not wrongly so, the American dream is the idea that anybody can become president, and as we've proven, anybody can become president.
Yeah.
But the point being is that, again, so now we think that, and of course, with the information age and the movement towards social media and the fact that you can watch this on YouTube, and we didn't have to convince anybody, some corporate executive, to give us millions of dollars to do so, is, hey, this is our own little vanity project, right? So hey, that is what it is,
right?
But again, don't be obsessed about it. We hope people will enjoy this. We hope people will find it on YouTube. We hope anybody.
Yeah.
If we got $1 out of this, that would be a bonus. But
taking the dollar.
Huh?
I'll take the dollar.
I'll take the dollar. But again, when we're dead and gone, if these videos are still on YouTube, if they're floating around out there in the Ethernet. See how I did that?
I like that. Yeah, it was pretty good.
If they're floating out there in the world somewhere, we won't care anymore. But if somebody still gets something out of it, that's awesome. Success. And we have secured our own immortality, but we won't be around to enjoy it. And honestly, legacy, whatever. Again, if somebody got 5 minutes of enjoyment out of it, or in this case, about an hour, good. And just a footnote, I want to say one footnote about my personal teachers in high school. Mm-hmm. I found out many years later that 2 of the teachers I respected the most were actually quite conservative. Mm. And I did not know when I was a student. And I want to say, first of all, it is not fair to say that all teachers are generally liberal. Those people being anecdotal examples of that. And second of all, kudos to them because they were good teachers who taught me really important things, one of them being history and social studies, actually. And their politics never came into question. I had no idea. Considering it was in Oklahoma, I probably could have guessed. But they were good teachers. Right. So this is not unique to any particular political persuasion. It is about these people who genuinely had that calling and did a fabulous job. And I just want to say a shout out to them.
Good for you, and good for them too.
Yeah, they were very good people.
I've worked with teachers on Conservative Bent, and we've enjoyed and liked one another very much. We spent time together. I think that what we're getting away from and what these big corporate entities, the people, that one person, right? I think what they want is they don't want people to be able to think, because then it makes the job harder. Kind of like when these administrators said, well, kids, let me just tell you that that's not a good thing to do. And you shouldn't do it. And because it makes everyone upset, and it's against the law, and it's this and that and the other thing.
People they drag out the law very quickly.
Yeah.
And the thing is that people, please remember that not all laws are perfect. Bad laws are made. Yeah. Our own Constitution was amended, 27 times? The Constitution, which we write with a capital C because it's so amazing, was not perfect and has been amended. So just because something is the law doesn't make it right. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean you should instantly break the law, but
stop robbing banks.
Be skeptical.
Right.
Be skeptical.
And that's fine.
Be thoughtful. Skeptical, maybe. Somewhere between there, right?
And be willing to say, hey, well, you know what? Maybe I didn't see it that way. I mean, there are many times when I've gone to kids I've worked with, and I was like, hey, is everything okay? Maybe I'm not seeing everything this way.
Yeah.
So, help me out, and then we'll come to some sort of an understanding, hopefully. But this I'm right or I'm wrong. I mean, I have some personal experiences, some that are really painful, that with people like that who take a stand, and when it becomes increasingly evident that there are flaws in their logic, then there's the retreat, and if they're in a position of power, then they abuse that power to shut people up, like myself or somebody else, or they in worst case scenarios, they just get rid of people. They're like, oh, well, and all because that's easier than, I mean, everybody knows change isn't that easy, but, I mean, even the lesson about the Middle Ages, hey, drag humanity kicking and screaming out of the Middle Ages because we had this thing in place and nobody thought to
question it.
You're like, well, no, that's just the way it is. And no, the earth revolves around the sun because, right. And now we know there's this whole universe out there, and people still tend to be tribal.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there should be an awareness. And I mean, I think the important balance that conservatism and liberalism bring is liberals deal more with abstract concepts.
Yes.
And conservatives keep them grounded.
Right.
And that's good, but you need both or you're not healthy. You have to have that debate, that push and pull. You can't have stasis. And that's the thing we need.
Right.
So,
like, well, we just need this. Like, no.
I think there is a value in traditional family values, as in it's nice to be nice to your loved ones and spend some time with them. And I mean, now, as a liberal, I also think that if you have two dads, that's okay too. But having a happy, healthy family with, again, decent access to education and all those other things. And again, and the other thing is that I think we can all agree with is that being equal, we should not have different values or different levels of equal. And so again, I think that consider the opinion and don't just consider the source. And I think that's a tricky thing to say. The thing is that if you sit there and say, somebody said this particular remarkable statement, and you're like going, well, maybe it's about education, gun control, whatever. And then somebody says, well, were they Republican or Democrat? doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And the part where it matters should bother you. So again, take a deep breath and say, it's a good point, or disagree with the point. But again, and again, we've gone to this extreme now where we've got people shouting fake news, which, by the way, I consider fake news to be somebody declaring I give up. I have a degree in German. I lived in Germany for 2 years. Fake news is the alt-right phrase for Lügenpresse. And if you say that, I consider you have given up. You've lost the argument. I'm not saying you can't call me on my crap.
You're right.
I'm just saying pick a better way to do it, and don't just. It's a logical. It's like a logical escape valve. You're like saying I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Right.
Like saying I agree to disagree. Whatever.
Learning to be thoughtful is there was the. I don't know who it was because it was. It wasn't necessarily a man who was anonymous, but maybe he just didn't want his name up. And he says, "I'm a single man who makes a good living and has a nice house." He said, "And I am more than happy to pay my taxes for public education." He says, "Because that improves the society that I'm in."
Yeah,
and my company can eventually not just hire people who have skills, but people who have thinking skills.
Critical thinking. I don't have to babysit them and hold their hands.
Right. Whether it's an auto mechanic, whether it's a physicist, whether it's an interior designer, whether it's
even if you're
somebody who doesn't even know where they are yet in life.
Even if you're a burger jockey who needs to know when to turn off the stupid fryer.
Guess what? You need to learn to be able to think and make decisions, and to the best of your ability, at least.
Didn't you have a fun experience with a guy who wanted to work for you and didn't like the fact that everything wasn't set on a timer?
Yeah.
Because he wanted to have everything set up before him so he could spend the rest of his time spacing out, basically.
Right. And I'm like, no, you have to consider these things. These things happen. I even see, people are like, well, but there's some people better suited for... There are always people better suited for all kinds of things. And
there's a lot of people on this planet.
And there's a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Even among so I'm a chef now, okay? And there are things that I do very well, and there are things that I either don't do well and should practice at, or at this point don't need to practice at yet. Knowledge, when I'm training somebody else, I'll go straight toward. One of those things is they have this thing that you've heard the molecular. The molecular cuisine.
Yes, gastronomy.
Yeah, molecular gastronomy. Right, we can call it that. So
it's where the pink goo comes from.
Right, and and they do all of this stuff, but all of this stuff has basis. Obviously, it's based in a lot of science. And people say, well, why do I want a seaweed foam? Well, maybe you don't want it. Maybe some other person thinks it's interesting. Whatever. But the principles in creating that go beyond just getting some seaweed and throwing it in a pot and throwing some salt and pepper in there. All of these things work together differently. When I talk about doing some of my dishes and maybe I want to brine something, and I look at people that I'm working with and I go, okay, so what we're talking about here is osmosis or diffusion. It's really diffusion. But, so when we soak things in salt water and then we don't need to season them with salt after that, blah, 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 blah. And they go, diffusion, I don't get it. I didn't pay attention. I didn't like science. I don't tell them that they're crazy, but they go, well, what does that have to do with cooking? I'm like, you realize that in
it's a chemical process.
Right. Not only that, when you're heating stuff up in chemistry, guess what we do? We heat stuff up. We have to know what its properties are. I said, maybe it's not as involved as understanding. I said, we don't do molecular gastronomy all the time, but having an understanding of that isn't going to hurt you any. Having an understanding of how things work. I've mentioned this maybe in another podcast or maybe just another thing. I've seen chefs, one of my best friends here, and I saw a TV chef say something like this, and I didn't go to cooking school, but I was a little, did you just miss class that day? And he says, yeah, we took this big giant aluminum pot and we made a long simmering tomato pasta sauce with tomatoes.
I know why this is bad. Because the aluminum and the acid in the tomatoes react with each other.
You can do it like quickly, if you want to do a quick scratch, almost fresh sauce, that'll be fine. But the longer you cook
simmer, you're done.
I'm like, right. I looked at my friend and I go, what's wrong with you?
You're oxidizing the aluminum with the acid. Hey, I know something.
Right. I mean, he learned in Europe, so like ketchup like we do. So they don't put ketchup on meatloaf. So he never covered the top of a meatloaf with ketchup and then saw that gray shit on the inside. So, but I'm thinking, we tend to limit ourselves with what people can do, because we haven't thought of it, and it's kind of like
because we never thought of it.
Yeah,
so you're saying
people do that all the time.
The not invented here syndrome.
Yeah, or oh no, there's no such thing as global warming because it's snowing at my house today. I mean,
anecdotal evidence,
right? Yeah. I'm like, stop, and you don't have to feel puny and insignificant.
That's not. You don't have to feel dumb,
right?
You didn't know that before, but now you do.
You look at the cosmos, and you know what? We are small. Doesn't mean we can't be great,
right?
But we're small.
I do recommend listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson describing how small we are and how great that makes him feel.
Right. I mean, we're getting ready to screw it up, but I mean, we're making it. The dinosaurs.
We're a part of it.
They didn't even have a chance. That comet showed up and they were like, we ain't ready for this.
And we need to remember, we do have all our eggs in one basket right now.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you gotta, and this is one of those. It doesn't have to be either or. Okay.
Cayenne pepper in my eye, but go ahead. It'll be all right.
We're off on a tangent here, but if you are a person who doesn't believe in climate change and thinks space exploration and future space travel is a waste of time, you might as well be signing a death warrant. It's way in the future.
Just
granted,
jump in a hole.
Yeah, it's way in the future, granted, but you're basically saying, screw it. Now, if you don't care about humanity having a future, that's your opinion. That's fine.
Right, you can do that.
Personally,
I got mine.
Shorter term, I will say this on global warming, signs pointing to 100 million people being displaced within the next 100 years. If you think refugee crisis is a thing now, you ain't seen nothing.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad. And also with the side effect of food shortages and all sorts of fun. So lack of resources, lack of land, and overpopulation.
And we have the brains and the technology to make that thing, but greed. I hate to say it the first
laziness.
Time. Right. And you know what? I'm almost embarrassed to say, even though I am a Trekkie, I'm almost embarrassed to say that I actually seriously, well, no, it wasn't just the Star Trek thing, but I think maybe it kind of sort of woke it up. But, when they had to go back to stop the Borg from preventing first contact, and the woman on Earth looks at the Enterprise, and they take her up there and they screw up the Prime Directive, but whatever. And she's like, well, what does something like this cost? And he goes, in the 24th century, we don't use money. Everyone just tries to better themselves. He goes, everyone has access to resources.
That was a little bit...
right, but I'm thinking to myself... Right, but I'm like, if everybody has access to the resources they need, then everybody can better themselves. There's always a lazy person. I would just keep it
simple.
Yeah.
I will say this. Actually, you're right.
Always.
There is. We live in something I've heard termed the age of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Age of scarcity. In other words, we are on the cusp of the age of plenty. And if this sounds too out there, bear with me. First and foremost, the invention of 3D printing. It's still in its early days, but we will be able to create things on demand.
Right.
And if you're a fan of small government, this is empowering, man, because you will not need nobody. If you want to get a good taste of this, go read 2 books I can recommend. They're back-to-back. It's a story that's back-to-back by a really great author called Daniel Suarez, which I will be talking about very soon on News from Tomorrow with my friend Gary. It's called Damon, followed by Freedom TM. And it's a near future story about a super rich Silicon Valley game designer who dies from terminal cancer. And he sets up a series of events through his computer programs to basically disrupt the political balance of basically the world being run by multinational corporations.
Right.
And usher in the age of plenty, as it were. I'm calling it the age of plenty. He doesn't call it that. But the point being is that he's basically, this is Daniel Suarez, who's been a consultant for, a computer security consultant, I believe, for like the United States. Mm-hmm. And so actually knows what he's talking about. And it's based on really good science, and it's a really good book and lots of fun. But it's the idea of, we have all this stuff already available. What if there was an interesting series of events that could be triggered, which this guy cleverly does by basically applying like role-playing game like scripting to human society with fascinating results, in order to knock the powers that be out off the top, and using the technology that we already have available today to create more of a balanced, in a way, more libertarian society, really. But, and again, where people don't have to be so, like right now here's a good example. Politicians nowadays measure the health of our economy based on the success of the stock market, which is insane.
Yeah,
if you don't,
yeah, right.
There are two problems with the stock market. One is the stock market is basically like saying I'm judging the value of the economy based on how well Las Vegas did last night. It's based on pure speculation. It's total crapshoot unless you know how to game the system, which is super illegal. And I mean, that's also kind of a fringe thing. By and large, the system is designed to be a crapshoot. And also it's like saying, well, you invest in a company and you get returns on an investment. Okay, sure. And you need to like look at all these companies and decide how to help them. That sounds good on face value. Of course, if I wanted to start a company, I want investors. So I totally can see that. I mean, you obviously starting a restaurant, you had to get somebody to invest in you. I'm not against that. The problem comes down to when the companies get to a certain size and they've got all of these investors, and that becomes the cycle of the health of the profits of the company quarter by quarter is how the health of the company is judged. So two problems emerge. One is that the customer is no longer the customer. The investor, the stockholder, is the customer. One. And then the second problem is you can't always go up.
Yeah.
Laissez-faire capitalism, the major flaw in it is that if you kind of look at it from a scientific point of view, there can be only one winner. And it's in a way, if it's completely unregulated, we have a word for that. It's called cancer. Unregulated growth. Allowing something to continue to grow forever, eventually there's going to be a limit. And at that point, unfortunately, things collapse, because that's also what happens. When you eat everything around you and there's nothing left to eat, but you need it to keep your metabolism going, you're going to die. And so, like I said, our current kind of like sign of a healthy economy and so on based on the stock market is kind of, in my opinion, it's a really bad way to
it's unhealthy.
Unhealthy, thank you. It's just like, it's like me saying I'm going to judge my happiness in life by how good I feel after a couple of beers.
After a while,
you start drinking more beer, you get liver disease, and then you die. Maybe that's not a great metaphor, but I mean, that's kind of that. It's a bad logic.
I think it's an apt.
Yeah. In other words, life can be boring in that the way to judge your life, like if you're healthy, is like, I lost the weight that I was supposed to lose because I started exercising and eating more healthy. It can be boring and maybe depressing sometimes. Doesn't mean you can't cut loose, but again, so Daniel Suarez, these two books, please read them. They're very, very good. They explain this age of scarcity versus what will happen gradually, eventually, the age of plenty. Yeah. Right? And like I said, don't get me wrong. Rich people nowadays, they're not about money either. They're about power. When you get to a certain level of money where you literally can't not make money because your investments, which even if you do, you hire somebody to be your investment manager so that he continues to make those investments, and you've got so much money and you're portfolio is so diverse that you basically don't have to even pay attention and just kind of takes care of itself. At that point, the only way to find satisfaction, I guess, in life is by your accumulation of power. So even nowadays, when rich people are looking for tax cuts, from their point of view, like killing the ACA, killing the Affordable Care Act, the biggest motivation for that is the tax break it's going to give to the everybody making over $1 million, which is going to amount to $36,000 a year. If you're making $1 million and that's how you measure your success, no. It's about sitting there saying, the other rich guy that I really compete with, I now have slightly more money than him.
Yeah, that needs to stop.
It's not, I mean, no, even if you start taxing the rich people at the rate they were taxed back in the 50s and 60s, which is like, I think it was everything over $250,000 was taxed at 90%.
Right.
The first bit, like normal 10%, 15%, whatever it was. After that, they really hit you. But people have actually used this argument with me. People won't want to get rich anymore. Right. That's a thing. Oh, if I only could have $1 million, what's my motivation to get rich?
Yeah.
$1 million? How
about that?
You get to $1 million, then we'll talk. Anyway, we should wrap it up here. This is the serious part of the conversation. I'm going to split this into we're going to do an after show after this with me and CC, which you can also enjoy. It's kind of a short part 2 on YouTube. As a podcast, it's going to just be after the closing music. We have in the last few episodes been a lot on social issues and politics, but we're going to kind of have a little bit of a more laid-back conversation about the joys of living in Japan. So please stick around for that. And thank you for tuning into CCNC. You got anything else to say?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks a lot for listening, and hope you get a chance to see us again soon. Take care.